If you want people to know that you're an expert in the topic, you need to talk about it a lot. Companies these days use thought leadership as an authority building tactic. So in this episode of One Message Away, we're going to be talking about the biggest challenges that come with content and how we made it work and how we made it painless for the management of a growing AI company and brought them some of the biggest leads in the world. One Message Away podcast is a podcast on solving marketing related problems in your company, helping you connect with relevant audiences, convert them into paying customers, and becoming a leader in your niche. The podcast drops in seasons. Each season is focused on one specific topic. In the first season, we talk about how to eliminate your competition, how to stand out. Everything is supported by expert interviews, my work, my stories, my experience having worked with more than 30 companies one-on-one and more than 300 companies through workshops, helping them become leaders in their niche. Want to become a niche leader? Subscribe and get unique content to your inbox every 14 days on a Saturday. So I thought I'd start with this. Here are the 5 biggest fails when it comes to content strategies. So this is why content strategies fail. This is why people say content doesn't work, right? 1, not sticking to your strategy for long enough. I believe in, one of the earlier episodes, I had an example with Bob, right? So Bob was a client of mine, and when I came into the company and checked out like what they were trying to do, or what were the tests that they did in the past in marketing, I saw that they did a lot. This team tried really hard to make it work, but they didn't give the strategy enough time essentially to produce results. And this is something that I see quite often. Essentially, we are trying to hop from one idea to the next, right? And the problem is you really need to give your strategy, enough time that it produces results, right? Especially content. Like content is the long game. Content like in the first 3 months, all you'll be doing is learning how to articulate your content, like how to articulate your thoughts and how to sell your product. Essentially, the first 90 days are about learning and experimenting and trying different things and essentially just getting good at content. So in that 3 months, it's difficult to get it so right that you just get clients. So you have to get good at it first, but most importantly, you need to stick to that strategy for long enough, because like if you don't believe that the strategy is gonna work, like why start in the first place? And if you do believe, like give it time, right? 2, your content is not resonating with people. That essentially means you don't know who your clients are. You don't know what they care about. They do not care about your product. So essentially your clients do not care about your product. They care about having their problem solved by your product, right? And so when you talk about in your content, when you talk about what you know, which is essentially your product, you need to be talking from an angle that resonates with people, that people care about. So not positioning your content in the right way is just gonna drive clients away, possibly to your competitors. 3, you're not experimenting with content enough. This is something that I've done poorly with my brand in the beginning, because I like in-depth perspectives. So I started with long-form content first. The problem was I didn't have any data to base on, like, what are the topics that people want to know about, because nobody really wakes up and says, oh, I want to be positioned well today, right? And so I started talking about the technical stuff, the positioning and how to do it, and how to niche down and all of those things. But the problem is people don't typically care about that. You need to give them something that they care about, right? And so to figure out what works, it's a really good idea to essentially experiment a lot. And so that's why, for example, 6 months before starting the One Message Away podcast, I did a marketing initiative where I recorded 100 videos and posted them every day. I posted one video on LinkedIn, Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky, and testing what works, right? And so for the first season of One Message Away, which you're looking right now, and hopefully you're subscribed to, I knew what was working, right? So because I could go back and see that, okay, so this video worked really well, this video worked really well, this video really worked really well, but all of the others didn't. And so I had the data to see and to decide what is it that people want to hear about in season 1, right? And so I knew that differentiation is something that's quite painful for the companies, and my clients want solved. And so that's why I chose that as a topic of the first season of One Message Away. 4, no consistency. That's a big one. People remember people who show up. People remember products who show up. You need, what was it, like 7 touch points to even remember a product, right? So you need to be consistent with it, and you need to be consistent with your topics as well. Don't cover too many different topics. You are not a newspaper, you're not a magazine, right? You want to be an expert in AI, talk about AI. Yeah, sure. Put the occasional personal image on that. We want to see who is behind the posts, but the focus should really be on the topic you want to be positioned as the expert in. The 5th mistake that people make with content, they don't put promotion in the content. I've seen this even with bigger companies. They're really afraid of selling their product. They're afraid of sending out too many emails. They're afraid of promoting the product too harshly, right? And if you don't tell and show people what you sell, they won't know. Even if they're interested in your content, they're not going to convert to the other end, because we don't have time to figure out, oh, maybe they wanted me to click this link or whatever. Just tell them, click this link to start your free trial. It's that simple. Not a 6th mistake, but a question I always get when talking about content, especially LinkedIn content. And it is, Andrej, we've started LinkedIn content for our brand, for the CEO, CMO, for the face of brand as well, but we don't exactly know where to start. We don't exactly know how to produce good content. People don't react to our content. We have no idea which types of content we should do more of. Should we do videos? Should we do text? Should we do images, carousels, whatever? So here are 3 blatantly simple content rules I use to get leads for my company and for my clients as well. 1, I ask myself, do I get enough leads? If not, create top of funnel content. Experiment with shorts, experiment with threads, experiment with X, with Twitter, whatever. Do short form content, because people you need reach. If people don't know that you exist, you need to reach people. It's that simple. You will reach them with short form content. People need to, try bite-sized pieces of you before they are ready to, listen to a podcast, right? That's why we create shorts from podcasts, so that you get the audience onto a podcast, right? But if you don't get enough leads, that means people don't know you exist. That's the most probable case. So if people don't know that you exist, you should experiment with short form content, text-based content, short videos, stuff that is easy to do, stuff that is easy to experiment with, so that you can be good at getting people into your funnel. Now, obviously, these types of content can also be a bit superficial. So sometimes, the titles can be a bit clickbaity, like 3 content types I use to get leads off of LinkedIn, like I just did, right? But it certainly won't convert prospects into clients for you. It will generate attention though. But to convert prospects into customers, that's the second part, right? So if I get enough leads, but they're not taking the next step, or if they're, poor leads, you should focus on middle of funnel content. So podcasts, long form videos, blogs, case studies, anywhere where you can show how you think, anywhere where you can put the logic behind your product up front and bring value. So for me, for example, it's One Message Away. For HubSpot, it was blog posts for a lot of time, right? So anywhere where you can sort of educate people or show them that there is a better way of doing stuff, right? People need to understand, how you think. People need to understand how your product works. So those longer forms, longer pieces of content can allow you to do that. Webinars, for example. The higher your ticket, the higher your price of your product, the higher the price of your product, the better your middle of funnel content has to be. Now, third case, if I get good enough leads and if I get enough of them, but I can't close them, that means that either this is a straight up sales problem or you have a sort of a positioning problem. So it's possible, people are interested in your solution, so they do click on your content, they do click on your ads, for example. They are the right types of customers, but then if your sales process is somehow broken, there is, it's possible that you need to improve that sales process. But the option is also, like we discussed in one of the earlier episodes, the bigger problem is if you're not positioned as the authority, basically you're there to make sure that, that the company buys the right software or the right tools or the right products, right? In one of the earlier episodes, I explained this, that about 75% of companies or even people, when buying products, after the initial research, they already know the product that they're gonna go with, but they still compare that product with other products, so just so that they de-risk the decision of going with that. Basically, they're just making sure that they're making the right decision. And so you are there to essentially show them that they made the right decision by going with your competitor. And it just means they are not treating you as an authority, they're treating you as the option B. Now, to avoid that, check the first two steps. You need to create content that gets you noticed. You need to convert people into clients. So essentially, you need to be positioned as the authority in the field. And here is how we did it with an AI B2B company. When we started working with this company, the company page on LinkedIn had about 2,500 followers. Now, we knew that we needed a few more to just gain credibility, so we started building the company page first. We were posting 5 times a week, experimenting with topics, experimenting with different angles, images, etc., etc. So we were trying out a lot of different things. Now that does two things, right? One, the company page is growing. The second thing, the management sees the processes behind that content, so that essentially they see that it's not something that they should be afraid of, right? And so when we grew to from 2,500 to about 6,000 followers, the LinkedIn change in the algorithm came, and so company pages essentially received much less reach with their posts. And so what we decided to do was to switch to personal profiles, so essentially exposing management as the faces of brands. And we were able to do that because the management already saw the processes of how this content is being done, so they were familiar with the processes, and they were happy to actually do it. And the results were pretty much immediate. When we started with the company pages, we brought in 3 of the biggest corporations in B2B into the funnel. And when we started with the personal profile, I think in less than a week, we got the first podcast request for the CEO of the company. So the results were pretty much, you can expect results sort of in the first 3 months if you do this correctly, obviously. Now, how to do this correctly? You need to put out content every month. You analyze. So we started with 5 posts a week on the company page. When we switched to the personal profile, we did 3 on the personal profile and 2 on the company page, just to keep it growing. Every month we did an analysis of what works, what doesn't work, who engages with the content. Now, keep in mind, in the beginning, early feedback is going to come from offline, not online, not on LinkedIn. The early feedback you're going to get from actually the management you're working with, because what will happen is that the management, so let's say the CEO, will say, hey, Andrej, by the way, I had a coffee with this guy yesterday, and he said that, he really sees that we kicked it up a notch in marketing with the company this month. So they see that the content is performing well because their peers and competitors start to take notice and give feedback to the management. And so that's how you know that your content is working and that you're on the right path, because especially in that beginning where you don't have necessarily the results yet, you don't have the leads yet, you don't have the actual outcomes yet, you have basically peers who see that and complement management on their new content, they are the early outcomes, the early results, the KPIs, if you will, that the content is actually working and going in the right direction. But anyway, next you need to analyze, who engages with the content, because, a couple of people from the same company engage with your company, with your content or with the company's content, that's a lead, right? The sales team needs to be on them. Like the sales team needs, or, the marketing needs to create additional, ads, for example, for this company, but the sales team needs to call that company as well, right? And you need to attack them as if they were in your funnel, and you need to bring them. And that's how, for example, we got Bridgestone, for example, or erm.com, and we got them into our funnel, right? And as the next step, what you can also do, you can then see that, okay, so, Bridgestone and erm.com are engaging with our content. So how can we make better content for them so that we can get them on calls, we can get them deeper into our funnel. So how we can personalize the content for these specific targets in B2B, because you can clearly see that there is interest there, right? And if you're in B2C, for example, you can check, and this is what we did at my last startup, for example, you can check who are the people behind the content. So we were doing this on Facebook, for example. So we were checking who is engaging with our content, and we essentially analyzed their Facebook profiles, and we adjusted the content for these people because it was clear that there is interest there, and essentially we were trying to get them into our products, right? So you need to do this systematically, we need to do this methodically. So when you approach content from a strategic, from a tactical point of view, when you do it, think through content and what you try to achieve with it, it will definitely give you rewards in the long run, right? Because content is a long-term game. It helps you articulate your ideas, your problems, your clients' problems. It helps you solve a lot of things. It doesn't really matter whether you're in B2B, B2C, or a solo business, or we've seen the founder-led movement, right, happening. So you can definitely build your company on that content. And we did it, with a B2B AI company that has millions in revenue, right? So it does work, right? And long-term, content in the long run, it's going to give you an edge, an advantage over the competitors, because it takes time to copy, right? So you can definitely stand out as an authority in your market if you do it right. So you have the plan. We talked about the plan. Just go. Just do it. Just fucking execute. That's it, right? Think about it. Think about strategically how to do it. Follow the steps, and then execute. That's it for today. Thank you for bearing with me. Like, follow, subscribe to this newsletter if you haven't. I'm creating a lot of bonus content for the newsletter subscribers as well. And do let me know if you want the 90-day plan to position your company as the niche leader. If you do, there is going to be a link on the bottom. There is going to be another link asking you to fill out a survey of, which was your favorite episode and so on. And so, click on all the links, click on all the likes, all the follows, and may your customers love you and understand your products.